If everyone would please join me in a moment of silence as we honor, stand. As we honor and remember all who have been lost during the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you. Be seated in those comfortable chairs. It really is so nice to see everyone, although we are very, very socially distant here in this room, and hopefully as the mandates keep coming and the restrictions are lifted, we'll be back to being live in town board. I'd like to begin by thanking all of the emergency personnel, frontline workers, nurses, doctors, and hospital staff who have been tasked with a year like no other. Their sacrifices and courage have been nothing short of heroic, but more than that, they have been inspiring. Their day-to-day service at a time when the pandemic was at its worst gave us hope and will always be remembered. Our entire community is truly grateful. I don't have to tell you that COVID-19 has affected all facets of life. It has truly been a year of challenges. The fact of the matter is, we can't begin to look back at this past year or look forward to the next without talking about some of these things. For while many real-life altering changes have taken place on the world stage, there is much demanding our attention right here at the local level. This, the town of Islip, is our home. And pandemic or no, the work at home never stops. Certainly a lot has changed. It's been an entire year of changes, a year of new norms. I don't think a year ago any of us would have considered ourselves experts in digital video conferencing, but quickly that's what we're becoming. We're all Zoomers now. We went from boomers to Zoomers. Everyone at every level has had to adapt. And while in the midst of those adaptations, this town still faced, like all municipalities did, the very real obligation to fulfill its normal responsibilities, its missions, in addition to new ones. Some things had to be put on hold. Some things had to be changed due to the very nature of the health crisis and the limitations it presented. But we still had a job to do here in Islip, and by and large, we did that job. As uncertainty surrounding the coronavirus arose, we immediately took steps to inform and guide our residents in English and in Spanish when social media and competing sources sometimes added only confusion. We developed the islipny.gov coronavirus homepage, offering informative links to the CDC, New York State, and Suffolk County guidelines. Thankfully, so many have found this webpage helpful. It has outperformed every other page created in 2020 by more than 10 times, receiving over 100,000 hits. Throughout the pandemic, we've updated you on breaking COVID news and information, townwide programs, mental health resources, as well as tools for reopening, the road to recovery, and now vaccine eligibility. At the height of the lockdown, when indoor dining was suspended, we worked with local restaurants to create a fluid list, hamlet by hamlet, of takeout-ready eateries and permitted outdoor dining. There was so much we needed to share with our residents at a time when accurate and clear information was sorely needed and unfortunately lacking. We produced bilingual information and tutorials for maintaining pandemic safety, which aired on our Government Access Channel 18 and Verizon's 1982, as well as on the town's YouTube channel. We produced radio and television interviews with Dr. Christopher Rayo, who's the Chief of Emergency Medicine for Catholic Health's Good Samaritan Hospital, and also Donna Morovic, who's the Executive Director of Northwell Health's South Shore University Hospital. These shows provided valuable, up-to-the-minute information regarding COVID-19 safety measures and the status of our hospitals in the town of Islip during the pandemic. We also established a bilingual robocall system, stressing the importance of social distancing and additional safety measures to our 330,000 plus residents. Coordinating with our partners in healthcare, pop-up COVID-19 test sites were opened at the Brentwood Recreation Center, as well as Good Samaritan Hospital. We mailed masks to residents, coordinated mask distribution to our local not-for-profits, churches, and businesses. And to date, our office, and I thank them enormously, has assisted in scheduling nearly 2,000 COVID-19 vaccination appointments for higher-risk residents and those who are eligible. The town and its partners have worked tirelessly to draw a line in the sand in front of the pandemic, but we didn't do it alone. Through your resilience, we found silver linings to wherever they presented themselves. Families spent more time together. You took to our parks and beaches for exercise, enjoyed our drive-in movie events, and in the absence of our normal activities, found new appreciation for each other's company. We saw car parades fast becoming a standard celebratory tradition springing up all over the town. And you came together as a community to acknowledge healthcare and frontline workers as the heroes they truly are. Many of you might have even seen the elite Air Force Thunderbirds and the Navy's Blue Angel fly over our town in salute of our local heroes. From first birthdays to centenarians, we celebrated with cavalcades of care. Clergy officials offered virtual messages of hope and faith. Teachers decorated students' houses with lawn signs displaying school pride. Bakeries gave away free bread to those in need, and residents and local merchants alike sewed and donated face coverings to help stop the spread of COVID-19. This was a town-wide phenomenon. It took all of you, all your strength, all of your resilience, and we thank you. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank my partners on the Town of Islip Board, who work hard to represent all Town of Islip residents. Each one, Trish Bergen, John Cochran, Mary Kate Mullen, and Jim O'Connor, as well as our town clerk, Olga Murray, work diligently on behalf of all of you. I am so fortunate to work alongside our town board members who take the well-being of our community to heart and carry that genuine concern into the programs and initiatives that they help foster. Councilman O'Connor, who joined us in 2018 and chairs our Disability Advisory Board, has continued the DAB's mission to address accessibility, seek equal rights, remove barriers, and promote opportunities for individuals with physical and sensory disabilities. While COVID-19 brought added challenges to this community, our Disability Advisory Board has remained focused on improving the quality of life for those individuals. Under Jim's direction, the town's Disability Advisory Board's resource guide was created and released on our website last October, listing service providers. We've also begun producing a disability employment awareness and opportunity video series that consists of in-depth conversations covering educational, vocational, employment, and social equity opportunities. Those can be viewed on our town's YouTube channel. And as we fought to mitigate the adverse impacts of the pandemic, let's not forget that we remain steadfast in the fight against the drug epidemic. As Town Board Liaison to the Drug Abuse Awareness Task Force, Councilwoman Mayor Kate Mullen has helped drive education and awareness of substance abuse disorders to our town and schools, an issue that has taken on even greater significance as we see substance abuse levels rise alongside COVID-19. During the pandemic, Councilwoman Mullen has helped support efforts to continue Narcan training through virtual methods and recognize 3 local teenagers, they were heroes, who intervened in their neighborhood to save the life of an overdose victim. They were on their bikes, they jumped off their bikes, and they saved a life. Many will remember a month-long Islip Goes Purple initiative in September, designed to unite all of Islip Town under the banner of recovery and awareness. This year, we're honored to have the town of Brookhaven join us in purple as we continue to champion awareness and recovery. And we're in talks, too, with the town of Babylon, who wants to join the initiative. Recovery, that word is key. Councilman John Cochran, retired U.S. Navy captain who has headed up veterans initiatives in his office for years, will take the stewardship of our hometown servicemen and women to the next level as we announce our newly formed Islip Town Veterans Advisory Board. The VAB, a community-wide initiative, will further the mission to help our town's veterans recover and reclaim their livelihoods in our town. Board members will include representatives from the various veterans organizations across our town. Together, alongside Councilman Cochran, these dedicated local veteran advocates and leaders will serve to keep local veterans organizations and veteran communities well informed on current issues and veteran legislation, as well as provide support to local veteran posts, assistance with the Northport VA Medical Center and the Bayshore VA Clinic, and provide COVID-related guidance and vaccination appointments to the heroes who have made Islip their home. We thank you for your service. Indeed, the entire Islip Town Board works diligently to enrich the lives of all who call Islip their home. For 12 years, Councilwoman Bergen has served the community and the residents of our town. Though she will be moving on at the end of this year, her efforts show in the progress we've made together, and we thank her for her service. But the push for progress doesn't stop with just our town board members. So important to me and to all Islip Town residents, I'd like to give a very special thank you to our hard-working commissioners and department heads. They were, are, and continue to be on the job 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Believe me, I get the texts. Let me take a minute to recognize each one of them. Our Airport Commissioner, Shelley LaRose Arkin. Our Town Assessor, Ann Danziger. Our Town Attorney, J.R. DeCiccio. Chief of Staff, Tracy Crute. Our Comptroller, Joe Ludwig. DEC Commissioner, Marty Ballou. DPW and Parks Commissioner, Tom Owens. Economic Development Director, John Walzer. Foreign Trade Zone, Brad Hemingway. Our IT Director, Steve Kozin. Director of Personnel in the Safety Office, Arthur Abadi. Planning Commissioner, Ron Meyer. Director of Public Information, Caroline Smith. Commissioner of Public Safety, Anthony Prudenti. The Director of Office of Emergency Management, Anthony D'Amico. Our Purchasing Director, Michael Rand, and our Youth Bureau Director, Tim Mayer. Each of these dedicated commissioners and directors and their deputies and their teams work so hard to keep the town of Islip running at its best for all our residents. It's truly my honor to come to work alongside of each of them every day. Working in tandem with their teams, these commissioners and department heads have risen to meet the many challenges in this most difficult year. Challenges like navigating the restrictions of a mandated statewide shutdown without curtailing the needed services our residents have come to rely on and depend on. Many implemented new online methods to foster contactless options to conduct business, like in our assessor's office, who modernized systems to stabilize data management and retrieval, allowing petitioners to file grievance complaints electronically, or our town clerk's office, who adapted to new guidelines and encouraged limited public interaction, initiating online form processing. Likewise, in the tax receiver's office, we established a drop box for payments and improved online payment systems to reduce the need for residents to gather in person. Of course, where would we be on this digital front if not for our information technology department, who implemented upgrade after upgrade to enable remote working environments during the height of the pandemic. Their efforts enabled us to adapt to the unseen challenges without slowing productivity. And they went to work for our residents too, upgrading Wi-Fi access at town locations and designing personalized online portals that permit residents to complete paperwork without the need to enter town buildings. Speaking of town buildings, our Department of Public Works, which includes our Building Safety Division and custodial staff, renovated and retrofitted town offices and lobbies to adapt to COVID-19 protocols, also installing HVAC air purifiers. In fact, DPW, under the devoted direction of Commissioner Tom Owens, had quite the busy year. I'm sure we haven't forgotten the fair share of storms there were to contend with, try as we might. Hurricane Isaias took the whole island shook the whole island, literally, leaving a monumental cleanup effort here in Islip that included thousands of fallen trees and downed power lines. Our DPW's crews, assisted by Parks and DEC, were out in full force, working 7 days a week to clear debris and open rights of way, all during the height of the pandemic. There is a renewed commitment to get our paving program back on track, along with addressing the ever-increasing drainage issues we are facing town-wide. Of course, then came the cold months and the snow. Still, while contending with these, Public Works improvement projects marched steadily on, with DPW initiating new road curve warnings, new bike lanes, a speed trailer portable radar sign program, as well as an LED backlit pedestrian sign action safety plan, and completion of the long-awaited and much begged for parking lot at the Brentwood Senior Center. Indeed, it's been business as usual for many of our departments, not because COVID-19 didn't present an obstacle, but because our commitment to progress demanded it. And of course, there were the perennial potholes to deal with, and to date, we've filled over 30,000. Our Department of Environmental Control continued pet adoptions at our town-owned animal shelter throughout the pandemic. Work also continued on the new Town of Islip Animal Shelter and Adopt a Pet Center, which is anticipated to hopefully open this summer. And while navigating the difficulties of one crisis, they made sure not to lose sight of another. Following through with an unwavering commitment to environmental preservation and renewable energy, DEC installed solar panels at Blydenburg and Lincoln Avenue landfills and expanded the town's aquaculture beyond just shellfish to include sugar kelp, as well as leasing available parcels. We are now at an astounding 12 million plus oysters, each oyster cleaning up to 50 gallons of bay water daily. Our Department of Planning, too, forged on, orchestrating several projects and studies aimed to improve quality of life within the town, including the Bayport Hamlet study, extensive sidewalk improvements, especially in Brentwood, on top of working with internal departments and agencies to design and implement new building upgrades at Town Hall, which we know are long overdue and will finally be addressed, including the roof and repairing our landmark cupola. And when restrictions changed and guidelines were constantly changing, our dedicated planning department committed themselves to organizing and issuing tent and outdoor dining permits, often turning them around in one day with no permit fees so that restaurants throughout Islip could meet state guidelines, a lifeline for so many when doors would otherwise be closed. Likewise, our Economic Development Department, along with our Industrial Development Agency and Economic Development Corporation, got to work. In 2020, they induced 11 projects, helped to create over 260 new jobs. And in the year ahead, they plan to induce 15 new projects, close 10 projects, as well as meet with many companies to develop projects for expansion, projects that will help reignite our great economic engine. Crucial to our towns and indeed all of Long Island's economy, our very own Long Island Macarthur Airport. They faced down a year of challenges. Thanks to Commissioner Shelley LaRose Arkin and Deputy Commissioner Rob Schneider, the airport immediately addressed health and safety concerns. Macarthur Airport was the first airport in the world to install continuous air-surface pathogen reduction units throughout the terminals, the first airport in the country to install Silver Defender antimicrobial films all over high-touch surfaces, and was among the first airports in the United States to install a personal protective equipment PPE vending machine. Despite the challenging year, Frontier Airlines has announced nonstop service to Las Vegas will be commencing later this year, and Southwest Airlines begins flying nonstop to Nashville this June. Also, Macarthur Airport was selected as one of the country's top 10 small airports, ranking 4th, and we'll work on getting that up next year, in USA Today's 10 Best Reader Choice Awards. Islip has remained operational, continuing to add new flights and seek travel opportunities to suit all of Long Island's travel needs. And speaking of needs, the pandemic certainly put a strain on needs. But where COVID created a gap in the coverage provided to our residents, we worked to create new programs to address insecurities. Programs like those created by our Youth Bureau, who ran clothing and supply drives for underserved community members. In addition, the Emergency Child Care Program for essential workers, which was run by YES, Youth Enrichment Services, and their executive director, Marianne Pfeiffer, to help our local heroes when they were helping us. Our Angel Tree program, in a year when more than ever families need our help, town staff adopted over 60 Salvation Army angels, carefully selecting toys, clothing, and more to ensure the holiday season remained joyous at a time when joy was sorely needed. Our Department of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs modified many of its programs to address public health, safety measures, and concerns. Along with the support of the town board, the initiative for a professional assessment of all of our marinas and docks, many aging and in need of repair, was finally completed. We were able to finally complete the repairs at the Bayshore Marina, but facilities like Atlantique and others needed to be addressed. We made a decision to do an RFP for the operation of the Atlantique Marina, along with capital improvements to the facility. After a thorough and transparent process, the town board unanimously approved the contract to Strong's Grover, bringing nearly 150 years of combined experience in marina operation. We look forward to an enhanced experience for all our boaters and visitors to this town of Islip treasure. Parks also launched the widely popular Get Fit with Nick exercise video series to keep our seniors moving when centers were closed to the public. And they revamped the senior center's meal programs to feed homebound seniors, and thank you, Carol, and your team, throughout the pandemic. Thanks to the federal funding made available through our Islip Town Community Development Agency, the town was able to purchase a new refrigerated van to aid in the meal delivery efforts. When the pandemic kept us away from each other, Parks reimagined our free summer movie nights, and thank you, Deirdre. And in partnership with Catholic Health Good Samaritan Hospital, who sponsored the series, we brought back the beloved drive-in movie experience, giving a moment of respite to our town's children and families. And yes, it will be back for 2021. 2020 was a year of trials, but I hope you see that in some way, it was also a year of triumph. On any given day, my office received emails promising praising the ongoing professionalism of our many town employees. Many of these have been playing on the screens that you see. When life changed, so did we. When you were forced to adapt, we adapted alongside you. And together, 6 feet apart, we persevered. And as we faced the many challenges together and worked with our commissioners to press forward and meet the goals we set forth, in spite of them, we relied this year, more than before, on the devoted workers of this town, not only to fulfill their obligations, but to go beyond their standard duties, to drive us forward when the pandemic wanted to pull us back. These in-house heroes are all around us. Heroes like Dennis Bennett and the entire custodial staff. They worked around the clock since the beginning of the pandemic to assure that every building, every office, every door handle, every desk was sanitized multiple times each day, every day of the week. Dennis and the Town of Islip custodial team, Rosa, I salute you and everyone that works with you. They made themselves available at all hours of the day to disinfect and spray down high-touch areas, wherever and whenever a positive case of the virus was reported. His leadership and dedication, alongside the resilience and perseverance of his team to keep our employees safe, has certainly not gone unnoticed. So thank you, Dennis, and to our entire dedicated custodial staff. The cleanup effort was truly a monumental one, and it wasn't just limited to our custodial staff inside our town buildings. Since the start of the pandemic and throughout, our DEC sanitation collection and disposal crews have risen to meet the significant increase in waste levels generated by residents who were quarantined in place. In fact, collections were up over 30%. Residential curbside collection and services at town disposal facilities continued uninterrupted, despite the personal and professional challenges of working through a global pandemic. That's really quite something. Too often it goes without saying how much we rely and are grateful to the men and women who remain dedicated to the multiple divisions of our collection and disposal crews. So today we'll say it. To those individuals working at the Macarthur compost facility, the Macarthur waste to energy facility, the Hot Pot clean fill, and the multi-purpose recycling facility, as well as those in resource recovery collection units and the collection and enforcement inspectors. We see your hard work, we recognize your sacrifices, and we thank you. Talking about increased demand, this past year, maybe more than ever, we relied on our safety and personnel offices to guide us through the uncertain times, doing whatever necessary, whenever needed, to maintain town operations. You know, that's really one of the most poignant takeaways of the COVID-19 pandemic. Information guidelines, policies, they were constantly shifting at a time when certainties were scarce and anxieties were many. The pandemic, especially in those earlier days, was ever morphing. With these offices, they were tasked to wrangle the day-to-day, week-to-week, and seemingly hour-by-hour changes. And I'm proud to say they rose to the occasion. Our entire personnel staff under the direction of Arthur Abadi has been and continues to be available to all employees, providing guidance and answers to any COVID-related questions and concerns. All of us are truly grateful. We mentioned that alongside the personnel office, our Department of Public Safety has stepped forward as a reassuring hand throughout the pandemic. They stood on the front lines, adapting to the new challenges of these uncertain times, distributing PPE equipment, working alongside our departments wherever needed, aiding in the response to COVID-19 in ways that are honestly too many to list. Gratitude, confidence, respect, these they all share, but they must first be earned. And from the town safety office, who better exemplifies this than Safety Officer Jennifer Crosley. Working with a local urgent care facility, Jennifer helped facilitate COVID-19 testing for our town employees. This partnership established the pipeline to guarantee that those who return to work after possible or confirmed COVID-19 exposure could do so safely, resuming their service to our community without health risk. Jennifer has made herself available 7 days a week, every week for over a year. This same scenario is replicated by many of our employees throughout the town. That is a level of dedication that, frankly, earns our respect and humbly our gratitude. Again, our sincerest gratitude goes out to all these individuals who together only make up a fraction of the Town of Islip team, who have worked longer and harder than ever before in order to see this town through a period of its greatest challenges. When many stayed home, they stayed on the job. They remained on our roads. They stayed in our facilities. They continued to remain dedicated even during periods of the greatest uncertainty. And to our Office of Constituent Services in Lizette, who were there manning the phones, the calls were many and continue to be many, the types of questions so varied, but always there to help. We are proud to serve alongside such excellent and admirable individuals and are ever grateful for all they've done and continue to do. Of course, while the vigilance and dedication of our departments and their staff have helped forge a path forward over new terrain, there is still much work to be done. The changes that have been put upon us by COVID-19 have left profound impacts on our lives. There is no denying that more change is coming. Change that will bring new challenges, and some challenges that will remain with us. For instance, the chips haven't fallen yet in a world where, according to a March 23rd Newsday article, just 22% of the major Manhattan employers plan to require their workers to return to their offices. This begs the question, is this good for Long Island? If Long Island residents can work remotely, why would they choose to pay the taxes they pay, especially when they could be working remotely from the Green Mountains of Vermont or the shores of Virginia Beach. Not that I'm suggesting they do that. We need them here in our town. In the not-so-distant future, Long Island's high taxes are going to become a much more prominent issue. It may be too soon to plan and appropriately react to them, but some pundits have already speculated how the suburbs will be impacted by New York City commuters who may be working from home on a permanent basis. Personnel in our planning department are watching this carefully, and to the extent that the town will react, we will always be looking for ways to react positively for our town. And speaking of taxes, it's not all bad news. Newsday recently reported that school districts saw the lowest tax increase in 5 years, 1.8%. That is significant, but let's see them have zero since they're getting a big infusion of funding from the state this year. Because while on average the town utilizes just 5.5% from every tax dollar, that number is on average 67.2% for the schools and libraries. At the town level, our administration, and I know I speak for everyone on the town board, remains totally committed to ensuring that each and every taxpayer dollar spent is done with the utmost scrutiny, strong fiscal responsibility, and transparency. Our enviable AAA bond rating goes a long way in helping us do just that. And to Joe Ludwig and his team, I thank you for your help with that. Because the march on progress must go on, we are determined to come back stronger and with smarter initiatives and projects. Take, for example, the Belmont at Eastview Central Islip on a parcel that had been tax exempt for years. Formerly the Central Islip Psychiatric Center and then New York Institute of Technology on Carlton Avenue, the town was confident in approving the 354-unit apartment complex that will include a community center, basketball and tennis courts, dog parks, playgrounds, picnic areas, and a swimming pool on an 87-acre tract, and it's just a stone's throw from the Long Island Ducks ballpark. These Gothic historic structures, one recently being dubbed the Harry Potter building, are being refurbished, all of those buildings, keeping the project green, eliminating emissions and the unnecessary truck traffic that normally comes with major demolition. The developers worked with the community leaders and town officials to build support for the project, underscoring the value of partnership here in the town of Islip. And we do value partnerships. We work with an incredible team in the town. This is true because our incredible residents have accepted the challenge to step up and be a part of that team. You've partnered with us in so many ways to make the town a better place. So many volunteers who serve our residents each and every day on our various boards, commissions, local fire departments, ambulance companies, chambers of commerce, cultural and civic groups, beautification and historical societies, neighborhood watch groups, our Parks Foundation, the Airport Advisory Board. I wish I could name each and every one of them. It's our partnership with our residents, with grassroots organizations, community leaders, and our schools that unites us. And together, united, we improve. We share ideas, we learn from one another. Our partnership is strong. We rely on you when we need to do better, when needed change is needed now. For instance, you may have heard the town recently resolved a lawsuit that resulted in the creation of 4 separate councilmanic districts, including a district that encompasses the hamlet of Brentwood, establishing a district representing the Hispanic community. While this clearly signifies a major change in town government, my role as a supervisor remains exactly the same. I always have and always will continue to represent all the residents in our wonderful town. Our town board members, who will ultimately be elected by residents in their town councilmanic districts, will always work with the best interests of the town as a whole in mind. I want to reassure you that I, along with my colleagues on the town board, are listening. We respect your opinion and we want your input. We are one town, and this administration is steadfast in its commitment to represent the interests of all residents in each and every one of our hamlets. We are committed to providing the services all residents have come to know and deserve. It's our partnerships and relationships with our residents, our community groups, and stakeholders that we treasure and sets us apart as one of the best towns in the entire state. Now, I know in this climate of uncertainty, it's hard to look ahead with optimism when so many have been negatively affected through no fault of their own. That's why, where we can, we will always look for ways to provide assistance where it is needed. In July of 2020, our Town of Islip Industrial Development Agency established the COVID-19 Emergency Grant and Loan Program. This was done after the state lifted the restriction on IDAs from providing grants and loans to small businesses. Our agency allocated $250,000 to the program. Small businesses in Islip could apply for grants, not exceeding $10,000 to use for the expenditure of personal protective equipment or supplies. The agency has awarded all of the $250,000 to 48 different businesses. And the types of businesses range from dental offices, fitness centers, restaurants, and retail establishments. It was one way to provide some relief to these small businesses. Likewise, our Community Development Agency recently announced the Emergency Rental Assistance Program with $8.79 million available to our residents, those are federal dollars, to help pay overdue rent and utility costs. Residents and landlords can apply for up to 12 months of assistance at islipcda.org. Assistance will also be available for homeowners through the CDA's Emergency Mortgage Assistance Program, set to launch by the end of the month. With $2 million available to mortgage holders, homeowners can apply for up to 3 months of assistance at a time when every bit matters. This pandemic has taken too much from all of us, and we will continue to look for ways to explore new partnerships and identify new opportunities to prevent it from taking anything more. This pandemic, I know we're tired of hearing those words. We've all heard of COVID fatigue, and it is real. But we must be steadfast and remain vigilant to see each other through to the other side of this difficult time in our nation's history. We face challenges and obstacles, and by working together, we've proven we can overcome them. We've had to adapt. We've faced change and faced new challenges that change brings. But change can also bring new opportunities. You might ask, what can I do? What can I do at a local level to make any difference? Because while it's true we're not poised when COVID shakes the world to shake it back, because of the wealth of diverse and strong-willed peoples of our community, together we can be the spark that builds the flame that reignites these local engines. There is ground to cover. Together we have to drive to push forward and beyond, not to reclaim the old normal, but to build a better one, to address our shared interests. We need to continue to focus on our environment, our infrastructure, community-supported, purposeful, and sustainable planning and development, our local economy and industrial development, the public safety, our parks, our beaches, our recreational opportunities, our senior citizens, our veterans, and our youth, for they are our future. As the pandemic separated us physically, it united us in our purpose, showing us what we can achieve when we partner to do it. We can get back to work to address these interests, to keep Islip the home that enables our senior citizens to stay here and our young people to choose to live here, in our town, our home, raising families in the same way that we have done. Since March 1st of 2015, I have been truly honored to be the supervisor of our great town of Islip, third largest town in the state of New York. And I thank you for trusting in me as we've banded together through a most difficult time. With the partnership of my fellow town board members, the hard work of all of our professional and caring commissioners, and with the participation and support of our town residents, we will continue to accomplish great things for our great town of Islip. Together, 6 feet apart with a mask on for now, but forward together nevertheless. So please continue to practice common sense safety protocols, keep social distancing, wash your hands, wear those masks, and go out there and get your vaccine. Thank you. Please be safe, and may God bless our town.